Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be ranking every palette I have tried in 2024 so far. We are 2.5 months into the year. I did take a whole month off almost between vacation and me being sick, and I have tried a total of 13 palettes. I have made videos with all of these, and so today I'm excited to rank them for you so that you know which ones are my most favorite. I will say I honestly like every single one of these, but obviously there are some that I like better than others. I always take into account how much I think I'm going to use them, or if the palette just has a color story that is very appealing to me and whatnot. So we'll go through all of those details as I take you through my video ranking. If you're excited for today's video, give it a thumbs up and let's go ahead and get started. All of these are listed in the description box below, so if by the end of this video you decide to want to go for any of them, please get them using the links I'm leaving you down there. Whenever you use my links, it helps out my channel. Furthermore, I have, like I said, made videos on all of these, so maybe you're not convinced by me just telling you I love it and you want to check out the video where I tried it. Please feel free to do so. As I said, all of these I have tried and reviewed rather recently. Anyways, my least favorite palette I've tried so far, on the spot number 13, is a palette that, as I said, I like, but it's just not a palette that I see myself reaching for that often, and the color story to me is a bit limiting. I'm talking about the Lost in Love palette from ColourPop. This one came out for Valentine's Day, and I think it is a fantastic Valentine's Day palette. Furthermore, if you're someone who loves to wear pink eyeshadow, I think this palette is fantastic for you, plus it's nice and affordable. With that said, it's limiting to me because I don't tend to gravitate towards this color story all that often. I feel like during Valentine's Day, I like it. Maybe a bit of a pop of pink during summer, but this is like an all pink palette. I will say the shimmers in this palette are beautiful, very nice, very sparkly, and the mattes perform beautifully as well. They are pigmented, they are blendable. I don't really have complaints about the formula. It's like good ColourPop formula. It's just, for me, the reason this one falls back is simple. I'm not always in the mood, or not often in the mood, to wear pink eyeshadow, and so for that reason this one is number 13. At number 12 I have a Huda Beauty Creamy Obsessions palette, specifically the Neutral Brown Obsessions from Huda Beauty. So I like this one, but the con I have against it is I was not a big fan of this creamy shade or this creamy shade right here, and then this is just like a translucent shade, so it's just to set everything, pretend that it's not even there. My point is, even for me who has very light fair skin, this shade and that shade didn't really show up on my eyelids that much. They kind of mixed right in with the color of my skin. They didn't add much pigmentation or much contour to my eyelid or anything, so I had to go to these three darker tone browns here in order to get some depth and some pigment. Already I'm like, this is supposed to be a 9-pan palette and I can only use around 6. So for that reason it falls back for me a little bit. One really good positive that this palette has though is this fantastic shimmery glimmery color. Absolutely love that shade. It is so shiny and I love how it combines with the cream shades in this one. Another thing that makes this palette fall back for me a bit is that because it's all creams, I found that they kind of really mix into one another like quite a lot, and so it's hard to get a nice gradient effect like what I'm wearing right now when the creams just want to melt together, because it all kind of ends up looking very similar. Alright, I know that was a lot of cons, but I still think it's a beautiful palette. I like the shimmers of it and I like the color story. It's just, you know, it could be better in my opinion. The next palette is actually an eyeshadow quad from a luxury brand, and I am wearing it today. If you guys like the eyeshadow look I have on, I created it with this next palette. This was actually sent to me from YSL, and this is the only palette that you won't find in a big video. I made a short with this eyeshadow look on it for my channel, and so you can find me trying out this palette in the short video but not a long video. Anyways, the formula I liked is a little bit powdery, however it performs well. It's one of these Couture Mini Clutch palettes by YSL that have this divine packaging. Packaging, 15 out of 10. I love it. Formula wise, the formula is good. It's pigmented, it blends nicely. However, I do find it to be a bit dusty. It's a bit powdery. And the shimmer, I like the shimmer. It's nice. I did find that I had to build it up and that it was also a bit on the powdery side. Like there's glitter, but there's like a talky feeling powder mixed in there as well. It might not be talky, it might be something else. I'm just telling you, it feels powdery for a shimmer shade. It doesn't feel like creamy or glidey. With all of that said, I think it performed well. I got the look that I wanted. It was easy to apply, easy to blend. It did have a little bit of kick up, but we can absolutely work with that. And I also do love the color story of this one. This was my first time trying one of these clutch palettes from YSL, and I was pleasantly surprised that I liked the formula as much as I did. These are very expensive though. These are $68. So for that price, I know that this will not become like my new favorite thing. However, I can definitely appreciate it for what it is, and I do really like this color story. And so this is number 11. Makeup from designer brands don't necessarily make me more excited to try them. In my mind, the price isn't justified. I do appreciate the packaging quite a bit, but it's still 4 shadows for $68, and they have an okay performance, but it's nothing out of this world extraordinary. When a luxury brand has a surprisingly amazing formula, then I recommend it. Other than that, it's just okay. It's just like high-end makeup, except you have to spend more money for it. At number 10, I have a palette that I'm not sure if it's fair that I put in this video or not, because it's not just an eyeshadow palette, but also a face palette. I'm talking about the new Hyper Natural face palette from Natasha Denona here. I showed you guys a bunch of different looks with this one. I tried every single shade. I like that the shades are creamy and blendable. They're definitely very, very easy to work with. She designed this palette so that you can create one and done eyeshadow looks with these shades, and for the most part I think that you can definitely accomplish that. I do love to mix the shimmers with some mattes, and so I did use the bronzers up here as eyeshadow and combine them with these shimmers, and that is definitely my preferred method of application when it comes to this one. The color story is beautiful, but it is kind of on the basic side, and I don't know that I see myself reaching for this one like all that often. I think it's a good staple palette if you travel a lot and you want an all-in-one type of thing. Yes, 10 out of 10. Highly recommended. I think the bronzer formula is good. The blush formula is good. Like, I don't really have a lot of complaints about it, but I am a little bit more excited for the rest of the palettes I have in front of it. So this is number 10. At number 9, I have an Oden's Eye palette, and it is this one right here, the Earthwood palette, which is a collaboration with the Fancy Face, and I like this one quite a bit. I think the formulas, of course, are fantastic. I love Oden's Eye formulas. The reason it falls back a bit for me is that I had a bit of a hard time mixing some of the shades together. I'm not super colorful when it comes to my makeup application, and sometimes colorful things do make sense to me and I can like pair them together well, but it honestly depends on the colors and sometimes even the way the palette is organized. And so this one for me was a little bit harder to use. However, I do love the individual shades. I see myself reaching for them. They're nice and pigmented and honestly beautiful. And I also love the shimmers that this palette has in it. Like this blue right here is everything. It is so glorious. This purple shade here, just fantastic. And like this green, ooh, for the inner corner. So yeah, my only issue with this one is that every time I have tried to use it, I come out with a look that is a little bit more colorful than I intended it to be. But it is a beautiful palette nonetheless. At number 8, I have the other creamy palette from Huda Beauty. This is the Greige Creamy Obsessions. Now with this one, I felt like maybe because the undertones are a little bit different, the creams didn't mix in with one another as much as with the first one I showed you. I felt like with the first one I showed you, all the shades become one. With this one, I can actually see the difference in the tonalities of the matte shades, and even these lighter creamy shades like these right here actually add a nice white base to the eye that is definitely noticeable and that you can build upon. Besides that, I think it has a fantastic like black creamy shade and also a really nice shimmer. Although I like the shimmer from the other creamy palette better, it's a little bit more out there, but this one is good as well and it brings attention to the eye beautifully. I also really like the cool toned soft color story of this one and the fact that she did still include a couple of darker shades in there to make it a bit smoky if you want it to be. Plus the shades are super wearable and I am super boring, so I love that about it. So this right here is palette number 8. At number 7, I have another palette from Oden's Eye and their collaborations. This is the Spring Dragon palette in collaboration with Judy. I like pastel eyeshadows. When it comes to like colorful eyeshadows, I think pastels are some of my favorites to work with. I will say though, for the most part, I'm not always in the mood for pastel, but spring is coming and so this is the time of year that I am in the mood for pastels and that pastel shades really excite me. And so this palette is very exciting to me at the moment. Take a look at the beautiful pastel color story that Judy came out with. If you want to darken things up a bit, you still have this nice neutral brown that you can combine with the rest of your pastel shades. I'm not gonna lie, I've only used this one once, but I absolutely love the swatches of it and also the look that I created the one time that I used it. The shimmer shades are very shiny, which I absolutely love, and at the same time they are soft and they bring a lot of light to the center of the eyes. And then you have these pastel matte colors that you can combine those shimmers with that are absolutely stunning as well. So all in all, if you like pastel eyeshadow, especially for the springtime, I do think this color story is fantastic. At number 6, I have the last of the Oden's Eye collaboration palettes I've tried, and this is the Mighty Monster palette in collaboration with Annette. So out of the Oden's Eye palettes, this one here is my favorite, and the reason is that I find it to be a very, very versatile palette. If you guys don't follow Annette, I definitely recommend that you do so, especially if you like this palette and this color story, because she did so many different eyeshadow looks with this one. She created summer looks, fall looks, warm looks, cool toned looks. She created a huge array of eyeshadow looks with this palette that truly made me comprehend how versatile this palette is. Like, she truly sold me on her vision with this one, which I absolutely love. And it's true, you have neutral shades and you have colorful shades that you can combine with those neutrals to create so many different looks. And you also have these lighter colors right here if you want to soften up things. Besides that though, the shimmers in this palette in particular are my favorite out of all of the ones I've shown you from Oden's Eye so far. We have some duochromes, we have a lot of intense metallic shades. Let me do one more on my thumb right here. Take a look right there at that silver. Ooh, so beautiful. This mermaidy color right here stole my heart. Absolutely love the shimmers. The shimmers in this palette are incredible. And then you have so many different color mattes to combine them to. It's just fantastic. Absolutely love this one. And so this is my number 6. At number 5, I have a palette that is much more boring than palettes I just showed you. However, it is a very natural looking palette and I love natural looking makeup, so I do see myself reaching for this one. Plus the formula is incredible. I'm talking about the brand new Makeup by Mario Master Mattes The Neutrals palette. I just made a video on this one very, very recently, and I told you guys all of the positive things that I love about this palette, the formula of these mattes being one of them for sure. These are creamy, pigmented mattes. They blend like an absolute dream. They are soft and so easy to work with as well. You can obviously combine these matte shades with any shimmers you have in your collection and create a ton of different looks with them. But then also you can just use the palette on its own and it looks very, very classy. Every eyeshadow look I created with this one I thought was beautiful and classy and timeless. So for all of those reasons and the fact that I do see myself reaching for it quite a bit, this is number 5. Remember when I was telling you about me having sometimes a hard time with colors and like color selection and all of that? Well, sometimes the way that the brands arrange those colors can make a huge difference. And that is definitely the case with this next palette because it is nice and colorful and I absolutely love it. And it just makes sense to me the way that they arrange the shades in here. I'm talking about the Gluminatrix Cosmetics Pretty in Pastels palette. You can get this one with a 10% off discount with my code PATTY10. This palette has incredible packaging. Check out the huge mirror up there. But then it also has this awesome color story that I find so beautifully displayed and arranged in the palette. It just makes sense that they put the colors the way that they did. As I said when I was reviewing this one, you have a shade of colors you can use on your crease. You can intensify those shades with the color right underneath it. If you want to smoke it out, use the color at the bottom. The second row is going to be the center of the eyelid shade. And then you have the lightest row for inner corner colors. Using the palette that way, you can immediately divide this one into the 4 color stories and come up with very easy, colorful looks. Besides that, as I said, I love pastel eyeshadows. And these are beautiful and they are pigmented and they blend like a dream. And I have no complaints about them at all whatsoever. Take a look at how good those swatch right there. The colors are beautiful and the performance of these colors is incredible. Performance wise, if you happen to be in between the 2 pastel palettes I'm showing you, the Oden's Eye one and this one, I actually prefer this one from Gluminatrix Cosmetics. I think the performance of these matte shades is incredible. They killed it. And then you also have these fantastic shimmer shades right here. Take a look at how beautiful those swatch. They look amazing on the eyes. And honestly, I don't have anything but praises for this palette. There's absolutely nothing negative I can tell you about it. This is the palette this spring, okay? And also this summer season, why not? And that is why this one is my 4th most favorite. Although I was just thinking about how much I love it and it could even be higher. But then the other ones have color stories that I'll reach for year round. This is more of a spring-summer situation. So I'll keep it the way I organized it. At number 3, I have a Nomad Cosmetics palette. This one right here. This is the Nomad Cosmetics New Zealand Stargazing palette. This one also has an awesome mirror. And then once you open it, take a look right here at the stunning color story that they put in here. They put a lot of colors that I am comfortable with in this one, and the formulas are excellent, so that's why it ranks so high. I do also have a discount code with them. It's also PATTY10 if you guys are interested. Let me give you some swatches of these mattes. Take a look right there at how beautiful and pigmented these are. I love that we have some neutral shades in this one. Here are some more examples. I love that those shades are in this palette because you can very easily soften up the more vibrant colors that they also gave you. The matte formulas in here are excellent. They are pigmented, they are blendable and buttery and soft and just wonderful. And then you also have these amazing multi-chrome shimmer shades that are definitely going to be the star of the show. Just take a look right there at how stunning and shifty and vibrant and just overall beautiful the shimmer shades in this palette are. These are the type of shimmer shades that I was referring to earlier when I said that the YSL shimmer was like a little dusty, because I'm used to these indie brands giving us these super finely milled, almost creamy shadows that feel weightless on the eye and that don't look or feel powdery at all. So my point is, this palette is in fact incredible. I love the color story of it, and so this is my 3rd most favorite palette in this ranking. At number 2, I have a luxury palette that actually deserves quite a bit of hype in my opinion, and that is this Dolce & Gabbana palette right here. The packaging is okay, not as luxurious as the YSL packaging. It's just like a plastic thing. However, the formulas and the color story in here I absolutely love. As you can see, mine is broken. I was able to swatch that shade though when I first reviewed this palette, and it is beautiful. And I do have another palette coming my way as a replacement for this one because this one arrived broken. So I informed customer service of the situation. They gave me my money back and then they gave me a 10% discount towards a new palette. So I ordered another one. I believe that they're now sold out, unfortunately. Hopefully they'll come back in stock soon. Anyways, I love this palette. As I said, I think the color story is beautiful. You have your neutral shades. You have this cream black color here that you can deepen up anything with. You also have some beautiful purpley type colors, which personally I absolutely love. And then you also have incredible shimmers and these multi-chrome glitter shades that I find are fantastic. These two and the one that is missing, of course. So I don't know, this palette just brings me a lot of joy, a lot of excitement. Even though it's a bit colorful, these are colors that I am very comfortable with and that I wear often, especially like the purpley shades and the more neutral tones. And I love a bit of sparkle in the center of my eyelid, so I know that I will be reaching for this one often. In fact, the other day I used the Pretty in Pastels palette from Glaminatrix Cosmetics that I told you about earlier, and then I intensified the glitter with one of the shades from this Dolce & Gabbana one in the center, and that look was just chef's kiss. It was so good. So yeah, I really love this Dolce & Gabbana palette, and hopefully my new one does not arrive broken like this one did. Hopefully they bubble wrap it real good, okay? So anyways, this right here is number 2. And last but certainly not least, my most favorite palette I've tried this year so far, which is a palette from Adept Cosmetics. This is the Adept Cosmetics Flying Fiddles palette. And I have mixed feelings about me putting this one at number 1 because the mattes in here are good. They're acceptable, I can work with them, but they're not necessarily like my most favorite. However, because this palette has such incredible shimmers and such incredible multi-chrome shades, I can kind of forgive it and just focus on the positive. With that said, this is not a palette that I'm going to like reach for another palette for the mattes and then use these shimmers. No, I'll use the mattes in here. In fact, I like the color story of the mattes that they put in this palette quite a bit. Take a look right there, and I think that they perform beautifully, especially when I use my Rephr brushes, because the Rephr brushes are really good at blending really intensely pigmented eyeshadows. So anyways, I love those mattes. I love the color story of those mattes. It's just not my favorite matte formula. However, I feel like that I can put aside because the shimmers are my favorite. So let's swatch some of these shimmers. Let me show you. Just take a look right here at how beautiful they are. Also, I think that these colors combine beautifully with the matte shades that this palette has in it. They are creamy and pigmented. I barely had to dip my finger in the pans to get this amount of pigmentation. They're nice neutral type shades, nothing too out there, so I know that I'll wear them a lot. And the formula of the Adept Cosmetics shimmer shades is one of my favorites to work with because it glides so beautifully, it builds up in an instant, and it gives the most glamorous look to your eyes. Also, the multi-chromes are super shifty, just fantastic, and this is a color story that I immediately gravitate towards. There's nothing too loud about it, like there's no color in this color story that is too out there for me, yet it's not a boring neutral palette. I can see myself using this one for a lot of different occasions, and so for that reason and everything else I've stated, this Adept Cosmetics Flying Fiddles palette is my number 1 pick in this ranking. I also have the same discount code with Adept Cosmetics, so you can save 10% with code PATTY10. And that brings us to the end of this video. I really hope that you guys liked this ranking. Was there something unexpected about it, or am I becoming kind of predictable in my rankings? Let me know down below in the comment section. If you liked this video, don't forget to please give it a thumbs up. Before you leave, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to see reviews on a ton of different palettes and rankings and suggestions and all of the new makeup things, don't forget to subscribe. I love you all so much. Thank you for watching today's video, and I hope to see you back in the next one. Bye.